Hey, thank you for joining us today on Uptime Logistics, powered by CAP Logistics. I am your host today, Doug Draper with the Denver Transportation Club, and we have a great guest and a very interesting topic today I'm super excited about. I'd like to introduce Brent Wells. He's the president of Iliff Aircraft out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So yes. Brent, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, pleasure to be here.
All right. So I mentioned something to Brent before we got started, and he's not going to know what this means, but it'll be clear at the end of the show. So my over-under on a particular topic is 4.5, so 4.5, right? I'm not going to tell you what that is, Brent, because we'll see if it comes true, okay?
Okay.
So we'll start there. Anyway, this is great. So the topic of the show, like I said, is very unique, and I was super excited to talk about it. It's a once
what a crappy subject.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's great. We're going to talk about how to be number one in the number two business in aviation lavatories. So that's awesome, Brent. I can't give the due justice of explaining your business and who you are. So let's just start in a couple different ways. One, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. I know that you purchased the company many years ago and kind of how that evolved. There was a good story behind that. Sure. And then a little bit about what Iliff Aircraft actually does. So let's just kind of get that on the table and then we'll go from there.
Well, to start off myself, I come from a industrial maintenance background back in the day and going through selling nuts and bolts. And so this opportunity came through with a family opportunity where my mother-in-law was married to the gentleman that owned this company. He started it in 1964, and he passed away in February 2011. And so when she received the company, she needed some help in trying to figure out how to run this company. And so I came from a regional director position from another company out of Chicago. And I was able to walk into this and have at least some type of background because I had started my pilot's training back a long time ago. And so aviation's always been something I've always been interested in either learning to fly or remote control airplanes or something like that. So to get into this, it was pretty awesome. And one of the great things about it is, so I was learning something that I had at least some knowledge and passion about. And my favorite thing about taking over the company is that I had to get my pilot's license. So I started training to get my pilot's license because when we first started out, we actually still worked on general aviation aircraft. But the waste and water components, we were still doing that. So it was kind of a dual shop. That program started back in 1988 and kind of worked into where it was as February of 2011. When we took over the shop, it was in a massive disarray, and we were able to get it turned around with kind of my wife's background is she's an organizational master. So my wife and I own the business together, and she just helped organize it. We had hired a guy from UPS that had retired. He was an organizational master. And so it's been a real kind of labor of love to get to where we are today. And then, so when we, in 2011, 2012, 2013, we did away with the general aviation side of the business. And we ended up just focusing on the waste and water components. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where we're at today.
That's great. Yeah, that's a perfect dovetail in when we were talking before, kind of the business philosophy that you took over to kind of 2011. Correct. When things started really ramping up. And it was another aviation company that you made reference to that a lot of people know that have kind of a unique approach. So tell us about the company that you used to model your business and why you did that.
Well, when I first started out in my early professional life, I read a book. I still have it. It's on my shelf. It's Nuts with Herb Kelleher. And it talked about the Southwest Airlines story and how they really took they did one thing and did it very well. They fly one style of aircraft. So everything is the same. Everything is, it was just a unique idea. And so in my early professional career in selling industrial maintenance items, I was not trying to be a generalist. We did one thing, we did it well. And so that kind of stuck with me. So when we took over Iliff Aircraft, we were doing some general aviation, smaller aircraft and things like that. And so, and then we were also doing the waste and water components. And when I say waste and water components, Doug, I'm talking about on a commercial airline like a 737, you're talking about the toilets. You're talking about the waste tanks. So when you flush the toilet, the waste has to go somewhere. And no, it doesn't go out into blue ice somewhere, right? So you have a waste holding tank. You have potable water tanks that when you go to wash your hands on the aircraft, that's the water that's come out. It's just like, tap water. It's good water. And so all of this, all of this to be said, we really focused more on what we were really good at, and that was the waste and water component. And so in 2013, that's when we really started kind of our real push to put ourselves out there in both advertising as well as some type of, media presence through, whatever, with our website. We redid our website. We did a lot of these things that helped us be where we are today. And we got recognized by a company. And every single year we are put against every other repair shop that that competes with us. Now, one of the things that's different between anybody else is we just do waste and water components. There's other shops that they do 5 or 6 of those waste and water components, but they also do 200, different other components or 1,000 different components. So we just focus on that. And over the last 11 years, that is exactly what people know us for. And so Southwest Airlines, Herb Kelleher, I had a call from Southwest Airlines that they wanted us to do their lavatories as a outsourced shop. And so we pulled the CMM, which is a component maintenance manual for that lavatory, and it had all these different types of things in it. It had the coffee maker, the oven, all these different things in there. So it was, as well as the composite work to put the drawers and things back in. And we really looked at that hard because it was going to be a substantial amount of money to us, and we just couldn't do it well. And so that if you can't do something well, then you just don't want to do it. I mean, that's Southwest, that's Herb Kelleher's. You can't do it well, don't do it. So I actually made the phone call to the guy at Southwest Airlines and let him know, hey, I got to tell you, and my exact words were, Herb Kelleher would kill me if I took this job without knowing that we could do it well. And I got to tell you, we're not there. We can't do it well, and I don't want to fail. And the guy said, I have more respect for you calling me and telling me that. And they found us some more work that was in our wheelhouse.
Oh, that you answered my next question, which was how did somebody reply to that? Because, generally you don't want to say no in most instances, but you know what? That was the right thing to do at the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So not being a generalist, right? And really focusing on what you're focusing. We had talked about the turn. You had mentioned that one of the successes with the organization and taking that approach was a 54-day turn down to 10 days or less. And so maybe that's a great example of what you mean by turn, and what exactly did you take from 7 weeks down to a week and a half? Talk about that, because that's a real success of being a specialist, not a generalist.
Correct. And one of the things and it all, Doug, it comes down to culture. So when we took over, in any business, when you take over, there is a certain amount of culture. It's kind of what's the word for it? Where, where they just do it their way, right? Tribal knowledge. Mm-hmm. So this is the way we've always done it. This is a way, their expectation levels are set. And when we came in and finally got everything to a level, we said, listen, we want to do 10 days or less. What do you think they said, Doug?
We can't do that.
That's right. There's no way. There's no way we can do that. I said, yes, there is a way. And So we started making the changes that were necessary. We started setting forth the expectation levels and then showing them how through a system. That's one of the largest things that they didn't have here was a system. And so we brought in a new software. We put stations in place. And so now everything moves through and it's just been fantastic. And so that's one of the big things is 10 days or less is something that most people are like, there's no way they can do that. And it is, we can. And that's 10 days or less on average, Doug, because in the aviation world, what people don't understand is, because I didn't, you come in and there's this globalization where I can get on Google and I can type something in and I can find anything, right? Well, in the aviation world, part number 123A, right? There's only one place in the world that has that. And I thought that was a joke. Yeah, whatever. No, there's only one place in the world that manufactures that, and it's got a 170-day lead time on it. That's real. And so there's nothing you can do. The person either says, no, I don't want this fixed, or the person says, okay, well, we'll wait 170 days. That's crazy. But that's how, welcome to aviation.
Interesting. So in that, I'm sure you got a big pool of duct tape in the back, and I'm sure that's not always the solution, right? So,
right.
And that is an amazing story about how there's one company in the world that may source it. So to get that 54 days down to 10, like what do you do in that situation? Are you just carrying excess inventory? And there's no way you can carry one of each of everything that's related to your industry.
Well, one of the things that, over time, Doug, is you have different aircraft. So, back in the day, many of the airlines were flying the McDonnell Douglas, the MD-80. That was kind of the workhorse, or the 757, which are still or some being flown today. And then prior to that, you had other aircraft. Well, over time, those toilets and those faucets and all the types of things, they are specific to a generalized group of aircraft. And so that part number, 2651-278-21, which is a ball valve, may be on 4 or 5 different platforms of aircraft. So you're only doing one ball valve for multiple aircraft. So you know what to keep on the shelf because you're continually seeing it come in. Gotcha.
So let's talk about customer expectations. It kind of jives into the topic in 2020. And it's, you can't have a conversation, it seems like, without mentioning Amazon, but, the 2-day, if I go on a website and I want to buy something and I can't get it in 2 days, I'm going to leave that website because I know I can find it somewhere else. And I bring that up because that's the mindset, not only of us as a consumer buying individual products for me, it's the mindset of business in general, right? Like I don't really care. I can get this on my doorstep in 2 days. Why can't I get this part and fix my toilet so I can continue to move on? So how do you manage that expectation? Because that's everywhere. It's pervasive in our entire society now because of 2-day free shipping. How are you managing the expectations and how are they changed, the customer expectations with you?
Great question. And they have changed. One of the things that, so take one of our specific airlines, which is a domestic commercial airlines here in the U.S. We are the contract vendor for them. And one of the issues that we run into is they had components here in the shop and they said, don't do any work on them, just hold them. So now it's more of a hold and fix. So where they may keep 5 or 6 on the shelf, now they're getting down to 1 or 2. Maybe they have 1 on the shelf and now they're like, okay, go ahead and fix that one. And then they'll send another one in. So the repair pool or the spares pool, if you will, that are sitting on their shelf has been depleted way down to the point where one of the airlines, because of our turn time, Doug, they know that if they bring an aircraft in for a heavy check and it's going to take 30 days to fix that aircraft, that they will send that toilet into us. We will fix it and then have it back in 10 days. And so they don't keep any. They may keep 1 spare for the whole airline because they know in checks that they will send it to us and we'll have it back in plenty of time.
Gotcha.
So the other one is exchanges have went way up. So if somebody pulls a toilet off of an aircraft or a component and they send it in, instead of waiting for that to be repaired, they will just take one that we've already repaired and we'll exchange it to them, and they can be up and running in quick time. So it's kind of like we keep the spare stock for them, and they send one in that's complete, but it just needs to be overhauled. And then we will send the other out that's already been overhauled to help them in their just-in-time kind of platform. Gotcha.
So in that example, who owns that inventory, right? So I have a fleet of, I'm airline A, and I have a fleet of planes, and there's a flux capacitor, and I want 2 of them on there, right? I want 2 of them on your shelf. So when there's a problem, you have the piece there and you can fix it. Who owns that flux capacitor that's sitting on your shelf? Do you own that, or is the airline own it?
No, we went out years ago and we specifically purchased inventory that we would overhaul and keep in-house. So that's just one of the services that we provide for our customers. So 10-day or less turn times is great. But also if you have a full already overhauled toilet that's sitting on your shelf ready to go, and they can send their broken one in and have it out in 1 to 2 days, that's where we win.
Gotcha. Do you ever run into situations where you have that for airline A and then airline B has a problem and you need that same part? Because you own the inventory, you could say, I'm going to use it for airline B and not save it for airline A. How does that work, since you own it, right?
Yeah, so we purchased, we're correct, and we purchased enough of of those specific toilets that we will have 3 or 4 ready to go at any time. And a lot of these aircraft, Doug, like the regional carriers, there's only 1 toilet on that aircraft. So, it's pretty important. If we always say the most important things on the aircraft are fuel, a pilot, and a working lavatory. So, so that's one of those things. If it's only got 1 toilet, they want to be able to send it in and have another one go back, and we keep enough in stock so that they will have enough to go around.
Got it. Understand. Good. So obviously, business, everybody wants to grow. You've improved with your turn times to get product out to your customers. Obviously, you want to continue to expand, right? You still want to be a specialist, not a generalist. You're trying to grow revenue and grow your business. So what other areas have you expanded into? I know that, there's not the space market yet, but there's definitely a global market. Talk about ways that you've expanded your business without having to be a generalist.
Well, so what other types of transportation, Doug, can you think of that has toilets on it?
I'm supposed to ask the questions. No,
Thanks, Doug. How about trains?
Trains?
Would you agree?
I was going to say buses.
Buses, exactly.
Trains, gotcha.
Yeah, so trains and buses. That's it's interesting that the toilets on buses, on long transportation buses, are basically the same type of design as they are on an aircraft. And so that's one of the things we've looked at buses, and we've looked at trains, because believe it or not, the trains also have the same vacuum flush toilet on it, so it pulls it down to a waste holding tank, much like an aircraft. It's really an interesting, but I mean, the similarities are, they just got different part numbers. So it's really, that's kind of the area we're looking at moving into. We've kind of looked at some sea vessels, and that's kind of a little bit, that's more like household type of toilets versus to what we are geared to. So, but no, I think that's the transportation as far as trains. And then one of the other things is we look at different other components that relate to what we do. So it may not be in our actual wheelhouse, but it relates, such as it's called a lavatory vent fan. And it operates at 21,000 RPM. And it's like the vent fan that you would turn on in your home to vent odor. This thing pulls a lot of air in a quick amount of time, and that's actually considered air conditioner and pressurization as chapters are concerned. But we started doing those because it's a lavatory-based wastewater kind of related item.
Gotcha. And in all these repairs, everything comes to you, right? I'm thinking of transportation and logistics. You're not in a situation to say, hey, I'm going to send you this part and, have the, somebody else put it together for you. I'm assuming everything comes back to you and then you send it back out.
Correct. So a plane does not pull up on our ramp here at Tulsa International Airport and they go, hey, can you jump on here and fix this toilet? No. But they will pull off one that is broken, or let's say the faucet continues to run. They'll pull the faucet off. They'll send that faucet into us, put another one on that's working. We just do component-related repairs.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, there's the elephant in the room that we're all dealing with nowadays with COVID, and the world has changed quite a bit. And there's people listening right now that said, hey, that's great, but toilets aren't being used as much on airplanes. And we talked about expansion into other modes of transportation. Mm-hmm. Has the COVID pivot or has the COVID situation had you guys pivot into completely different areas? I know it's completely the opposite of being a specialist, right, but I'm sure there's things that you've looked at. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, things that I'll tell you what has really helped us out is when commercial aircraft weren't flying, what was flying was the freighters. And so we have a good relationship with freighter aircraft and really and truly, I mean, it's come back to us that they are sending in more components to us on a broader range for example, one of the things that we thought we'd never get into that we don't think relates, but we started doing was ovens. So we actually do ovens now from some other people that have sent us, that's just something that we never would have thought we got into. And being an FAA repair station, the nice thing about it is we are what they call dual release, Doug, and that means we can sign off a component that we repaired and returned to service both here in the U.S. and then it's also covered under EASA, which is most people pronounce EASA or EASA, and that's the European Aviation Space Agency. And so that's where that all goes.
Oh, interesting. Is there anything related to, there's a lot of regional players out there, a lot of airlines, and, most folks would know of Southwest and United and Frontier here in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Is there any differences in how regional players, a bathroom's a bathroom. Everybody needs to take care of business regardless, right. But is managing regional fleets versus national or international type of airlines any different?
It is because of the platform of aircraft. You got to remember, so with the regional carriers, and there's a lot out there, ExpressJet, Commute Air, Wisconsin Air, there's a lot of these regional carriers. They may only have one or two lavatories on their aircraft. So it becomes, whereas a 767 has six lavatories. So if one of the lavatories on the 767 goes down, no big deal, right? They put an X on it, close it. If on an Embraer, so there's three main aircraft that's used today, Embraer, Airbus, and Boeing. That's the manufacturers, right? So Embraer is one of the bigger regional carriers, and a lot of those, they have one air toilet on their aircraft. And so, or they may have like on, like Republic Airlines flies the ERJ 175. It's got two toilets and has about 70, 80 people on the aircraft. So that's the difference is they don't have as many facilities to work with.
Got it. We're here with Brent Wells. He's the president of Iliff Aircraft. He's coming to us from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, so I know exactly where you are. I've been to Tulsa many a time, so it's good to have you on with us. And we've been talking about his business and how things have changed. Talk about technology aspect of it, right? A lot of people are, regardless this item or this flux capacitor, as we've mentioned in the past, can generate 3,000 flushes instead of 1,000 flushes. So is the technology changing in your specific vertical that is helping or hindering your business as it continues to grow?
Well, I will tell you, everything's getting more digitalized. And so as we move into the next phase of aviation, a lot of things are computer related. So where back in the day, you may have to set it up to a box with lights. So there's a red, green, and yellow light that says, yeah, this is functioning properly. Now you got to plug it into a computer so that it acts as if it is on the heads-up display on the aircraft. So there's a lot of computerization, a lot of things that are still pretty much basic on pressures and how the flush valves work, but now they're starting to combine a lot of where a flush valve opens and closes to flush the waste. Now it's, and it had an individual motor and it had an individual brain called a flush control unit. Now it's all one unit instead of 3 different separate computers. So as they bring things down, they're trying to lessen the weight. There's a new one called a revolution toilet where you're supposed to be able to take a quarter, basically take it off, the piece that's not working, put another one on, take a quarter, screw it back on, and plug and play. That's yet to be seen as an advantage or disadvantage. Because you got to keep a whole lot of parts at your facilities.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about, sometimes I refer to departing shots, right? We're kind of getting to the end of our discussion here,
Sure.
and there's always some good feedback that you'd like to give the audience related to your industry or some of the parts management. I know that you had a couple of good things you wanted to kind of share with the audience, so maybe we could do that right now. Yeah, that'd
Absolutely.
be great.
Well, as we always say, the aviation community is known as the largest small community in the world, because when you're in aviation, it's interesting that you'll know somebody that knows somebody because you're all in aviation. And so it really helps that you can make a phone call, and because you're a repair station or you work with, 10 or 15 of the different airlines, they may know somebody that can help you out. And so it's a really tight-knit community, and it's really nice to be part of that. As I look at new people coming into aviation, once you get it into your blood, it's kind of like you're just there. You just really enjoy it because the people are great. Everybody has a kind of a servant's heart, if you will, because that's what you have to serve the public in flying. And so everybody is part of that whole group. And as a pilot, when I go to take off and I fly myself and family, I'm dealing with people that everybody has got the same type of professionalism as a pilot, as the air traffic controller, as the ground crew. Everybody's been through the same type of training. So to me, it's the most professional business that's out there today.
Nice. A little bit like the mafia. Once you're in it, you're not getting out.
It does. Well, I've seen people get out and then 2 years later they're back in. So.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. So a couple things. So you had a coffee mug that you
Yes.
were showing around. You got to pull that one up because it relates to my comment. So
So this is coffee mugs that we give out at trade shows. We do coffee mugs that people will win these. We also, behind me, you can probably see the gold toilet award behind me for people that do a lot of things. We give out. This is a if you can see it. It's what we give out our capabilities list on.
okay,
It's a toilet that, so we like to have fun with a really kind of disgusting part of the aviation world because we're dealing with human waste and we have funny shirts. This year's is I Heart Airplane Lavatories, not COVID-19. So we just like to have a good time with kind of a not so nice type of business.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that was a setup because I'm woefully wrong with my over-under, and the over-under was how many potty jokes we could make in your industry. So I had mine was 4.5, 4.5, and I officially count one, and maybe that shirt's 1.5. So we kept it nice and clean, which was great. So,
yeah.
you know, Brent, I can't thank you enough for coming on because it is a very special industry that people just don't think about, you know, and
Right.
you don't think about it until you need it. And it's interesting. I really appreciate you coming on to Uptime Logistics and sharing your story and educating the audience. So.
Well, we really appreciate that, and as you know, as we talk about in parting here, you know, there are people that in the aviation like Cap Logistics, which is a good partner when you have something that you need to ship like overnight, or you need to get done. I mean, that's one of the things, as I was going to put in there, when you have an aircraft that cannot fly, that needs something delivered and delivered quick. I mean, we have partners like them that make a real difference in our lives and that of the airlines.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. Well, I'd also like to thank our audience for joining us today on Uptime Logistics. Of course, it's powered by Cap Logistics, and you can find more information about the show in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and please visit caplogistics.com for all customized transportation solutions. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.